Most Shopify founders end up solving for the wrong problem. When they feel stuck, they don't really know exactly what to be fixing. So they blame the traffic. They add more apps. They try to do more. When at the end of the day, the phase of growth that your Shopify store is in is ultimately what determines the biggest problem that you should be solving in that moment. So today I want to share a story about a founder who misread the situation. And once we started working together, we were able to give him exactly the end result that he was looking for. I was working with a founder who sells parts, car parts, boat parts, and he came to me convinced that he had a traffic problem. The end result after we started working together, as it turns out, he did not. Not at all. It was the furthest thing from a traffic problem. When I dug into the store after we started working together and I went through top to bottom the entire customer journey, the very first thing that stood out, there were three. So there were three really, really, really crucial things that stood out immediately that were causing the numbers to not really look the way that he expected them to, right? So number one was messaging everywhere. And I don't mean there was the top half of the screen was shipping messaging or messaging about checking the other messaging at the bottom to go to a live chat or trust badges just kind of randomly placed everywhere. It was just too much. There was so much going on that it was hard to determine what to be looking at. So all of the messages, everything that you're trying to relay to the customer, you really just end up saying nothing at all because when everything is shouting, nothing really lands. So the next thing that stood out immediately was that it was really difficult to find anything at all on the site. Unless you knew exactly what you were looking for, you had a very specific part number. And even then, finding that specific part sometimes was a real hassle. So the client would come to the store, they would be screamed at by all this messaging. And if they were able to start digging to try to find the product, it was very difficult to find. And then finally, the store had a bargain bin feel. Not that the store itself was a bargain bin, not that it wasn't beautifully designed, but the client had to, in order to show pricing, his pricing was better than the competitors. He used compare at pricing. Well, the theme that was being used had every single price at that point crossed out. So rather than looking as like it was a compare at price to compare the pricing to the competitors, it just looked like every single item in the store was on sale. So because everything looked like it was on sale, everything kind of, it made it look cheap. And when you're buying parts for the boat, for a car, you don't want cheap parts. You want something that's going to work for your store. And these cheap signals, they were just replacing trust in the product. So it was leading to people browsing through the site and then eventually leaving. Now, I want to be really, really clear and deliberate here. I want to make sure that I point out that none of the stuff that was there was stupid. Every decision that was made to put everything where it was made correctly at the time. It made sense when the decision was made. And the store, it didn't break overnight. Shopify stores don't just magically stop working, right? It's something that gets done slowly over time. I've called it the slow clutter effect before, but what happens is you build up, you add more. As you hit the growth phase, you build more. You add apps. You start collecting emails so you have email pop-ups. You tweak a landing page. And over time, one reasonable decision at a time, it just becomes too cluttered. Also, during that second phase, during that growth phase, it feels a lot like momentum because things are getting done now. You're getting email addresses. Now, you have a cool, fancy new landing page that you didn't have before. So it feels like you're progressing and you're doing really, really well until it doesn't. So phase three was the phase that this particular client was in, and it's called the plateau. There are four real phases in Shopify growth. The first phase is when you're really finding your audience. You're trying to determine if there's market fit for your product, who your niche is, who to sell to, what the best way to attract that client is through which ad acquisition system, whether it's social media, whether it's Google ads. You're figuring it out. You're in that beginning early learning phase. That's phase one. Phase two is the growth phase. All of the things from your learning phase start to click. You all of a sudden find the niche, you find the right ad channel, sales are coming in, and you are growing rapidly. So now this is where a lot of that clutter starts to build up because as you're growing, you want to do more. You're making these smart, intelligent founder decisions by adding all of these new things in order to help this new audience that's coming through your store. One smart decision at a time. But then slowly, all of a sudden, you start to find that your numbers are plateauing. You've kind of reached the peak. You try to spend more, you try to keep adding, and nothing's really working the way that it did before. And that's phase three. That's what I call the plateau. You have real demand. Your product is in demand. You have real customers coming in, and there's signal. Most importantly, is signal. There's data available so that we can actually understand what's going on inside the store itself. So, in this instance, once you're in that plateau stage, it's no longer about the traffic, right? In phase one, it's it's traffic, it's store. There's a lot that it could possibly be. There's a lot of guessing. In phase two, a lot of times the problem is most likely the traffic. And phase three, though, by the time you hit that plateau, the problem is no longer the traffic, it's a clarity problem. Because there's 12, 15 different growth levers that you could pull at this point, 20 different things that you could fix, and understanding what order to fix them in order to have the highest impact on revenue is priceless. So it's no longer a traffic problem at this phase, it's a clarity problem. And with this particular client, once he had clarity, once we had clarity on exactly what the issue is by looking through the data, he had signal, he had demand. So we looked through the data and we discovered exactly what those issues were. What we actually did was subtract. We pulled things out that weren't necessary anymore. We cleaned up messaging. We made shopping on the site easier. We stripped everything back to the most clear, direct path from landing page to checkout. And the fix here became subtraction. And a lot of times we'll find that the fix becomes subtraction. You want to strip everything down to the bare basic, simple path from purchase to checkout, and then put back what's necessary and only what's necessary. Before we started working together, this client was converting at about a 1.8% CVR over the past 90 days. Now that we've implemented the phase one changes, we removed a lot of the friction that was stopping the shoppers from when they landed on the site to checking out. He's converting at a 3.6%. His revenue year over year is up 85%. And the important caveat to pay attention to over here is he's doing this with 34% less traffic. So while he believed he had a traffic problem, as it turns out, he didn't have a traffic problem at all because he's making more money now sending less traffic to the store. So again, less traffic, more revenue. That's one of the huge takeaways here is when you focus on the right problem, when you have clarity on what the actual issue is, it really helps move the store and move the needle in a meaningful way that it wasn't before when you were just guessing. So I'm going to give you guys some homework now. When you're done watching this video, or if you just want to stop watching the video, whatever you want to do, I want you to go to your homepage, and it doesn't have to be your homepage, your landing page. Where do you send traffic from your ads? And I want you to open up that page, 2-3 seconds, and then I want you to close it immediately. And then I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. 1, what is your store actually saying? Like, what are you selling, right? 2, can a stranger find what they need in under 10 seconds? And 3, does this look like a place that I would trust with my credit card? Because if you can't answer yes to all 3 of these questions, then you really need to start figuring out what needs to be updated on that landing page. You need clarity on what needs to be fixed because you should be able to very easily answer yes to all 3 of these questions over there. No matter what you do, no matter how you try, if you are spending money trying to fix the wrong issue, you're just wasting money. It's like let's say there was a crack in the Hoover Dam. The answer isn't to send more water or force more water through, because all it's going to do is make the crack bigger. It's going to make the problem worse. And the same goes for your store. So if you start just dumping cash into more ad spend, when the issue isn't the ad spend at all, it's something on your store, all you're going to do is expose that problem and make it worse. You're going to spend more for your customer acquisition. You're going to make less money, and you're wasting that spend when all you needed to do was make a small investment to change one or two things on your landing page and in your customer journey. You cannot outspend clarity, period. Most founders, again, they try to add more ads, more apps, more urgency. And the answer is usually subtraction, taking away, making the path to checkout simpler. And in order to understand whether you need to be focusing on your store or whether you need to be focusing on your ads or buyer fit or your audience, you need to take a big step back and you need to look and decide which phase of growth is your Shopify store. And are you still in the learning phase? Are you in the growth phase? Or have you hit that plateau? And once you figure out which phase your store fits into, it'll make all of the difference. So if anything that I said today helped, if it made sense, if it clicked, if it resonated, if you want to hear more, please hit subscribe, like all of the YouTube things that you should do below. Click them and you'll be able to get some great new content every single week, because I'm going to break down stores. I'm going to break down different ways to help increase your Shopify conversion rate and how to sell more to the traffic that you already have coming into your Shopify store. New video every week. So again, like, share, follow, all of those things. Thanks.